Have you ever wondered what life was like before the towering skyscrapers, the endless traffic, and the constant hum of city life? For most of human history, we didn't live in cities. In fact, for over 95% of our time on Earth, we were nomadic hunter-gatherers. So, let us rewind the clock and take a journey into our deep past to explore what life was like before the very first cities emerged. Imagine a world without walls, without roads, without supermarkets. Our ancestors lived in small mobile groups, often made up of just a few related families, maybe 20 to 50 people in total. Their home was the vast, untamed wilderness. They didn't have permanent addresses. Instead, they followed the seasons and the herds of animals they hunted. Their survival depended entirely on their intimate knowledge of the natural world. They knew which plants were edible, which were medicinal, and which were poisonous. They could read the tracks of animals and understand the changing weather patterns. A typical day wasn't a 9-to-5 grind. Instead, life revolved around securing the next meal. The men would often hunt large game like mammoths, bison, or deer, a dangerous and collaborative effort that required immense skill and bravery. The women, meanwhile, were the primary gatherers, collecting a wide variety of nuts, berries, roots, and insects. In fact, it's likely that gathered foods made up the majority of their diet, providing a more reliable source of nutrition than hunting. It was a true team effort, with everyone contributing to the group's survival. Their possessions were few and practical. Everything they owned had to be carried on their backs. Think stone tools for butchering and scraping, spears for hunting, and woven baskets for gathering. They built temporary shelters from branches, leaves, and animal hides, just enough to protect them from the elements before they moved on. Life was lived in the open, under the sun and stars, but don't mistake this simplicity for hardship. Some scholars even call hunter-gatherer societies the original affluent society. Why? Because they likely worked far fewer hours than we do today to meet their needs. Once they had enough food for the day, the rest of the time was for socializing, storytelling, making music, and creating art. The stunning cave paintings found in places like Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain show us that our ancestors had a rich symbolic and spiritual life. They weren't just surviving. They were thriving in their own way, creating meaning and beauty in their world. Social life was intensely communal. There were no kings, no presidents, no bosses. Decisions were made collectively, and resources were shared among the group. This strong sense of community and cooperation was essential. You depended on your neighbor, and they depended on you. This created deep social bonds and a powerful sense of belonging that's sometimes lost in our modern, individualistic societies. Of course, life wasn't a paradise. Dangers were everywhere. A broken bone, a difficult childbirth, or a failed hunt could be a death sentence. Life expectancy was short, not because people aged quickly, but because infant mortality was high and the risks of daily life were great. This way of life, so different from our own, dominated human existence for tens of thousands of years. It was only around 10,000 years ago, with the invention of agriculture, that we began to settle down, build permanent villages, and eventually create the very first cities. That shift changed everything, setting us on the path to the world we know today. But by looking back, we can gain a new perspective on our own lives and perhaps even appreciate the deep, ancient roots of our shared human story. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more explorations into our incredible past. See you next time.